What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. But please note that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice, and don't forget to smash the like button. Anyways, for Tesla, we saw a nice little rebound, especially with the whole market, because we saw Jerome Powell pump things by being more dovish today. As a result of him being more dovish, the market does have a little bit more upside potential. I just want to warn everyone to be very careful as we hit some very key resistance levels. So I'll break down the resistance and talk about the charts in just a couple of minutes. Just note that when Jerome Powell spoke today, he said some very important things. He mentioned that the Fed is very open to and leaning towards cutting rates in September. He said the time has come for them to adjust policy. He didn't actually explicitly say they're going to be cutting rates, but he implied that. He mentioned that there's been a lot of inflationary progress that's been made, and the Fed is very close to the 2% target. They're leaning in the direction that there's very low risk of inflation going up from this point. And they suspect that even though there is a risk of a downtrend that could be coming to employment, the Fed's going to be very careful and they have to make adjustments depending on how that goes. So he was more dovish, especially considering the fact that for the next 2 weeks, we have some inflationary data coming out. So I want to talk about that as well. Despite the data still that has to come out and how the Fed has to watch for it, Powell still was surprisingly dovish. He wasn't as ambiguous as he usually is. That was a good sign for the markets as the market's not expecting a cut. So that's why the market pumps. That's why the market is still a bit more bullish for the time being. But things can change depending on resistance. Excuse me. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So for tomorrow, not tomorrow, for next week, I mean, just notes that on Monday we have some data coming up. We just have some manufacturing numbers. It's all very minor. Same thing with Tuesday. We just have some manufacturing numbers at 10 o'clock a.m. And then for Wednesday, there's not really much data coming out. It's just a bunch of Fed speakers. But then Thursday and Friday is when data becomes very serious, since we have not to mention the GDP numbers and also a couple of other things. So GDP is going to be very important, helping us understand the strength of the economy. And then finally, we have the PCE inflationary data report coming out for Friday. We'll see what this looks like and how this affects the Fed's policy. So get ready for that. And then on top of that, we also have some big earnings coming out for the week. Please note that for next week, there's very minor ones for Monday and Tuesday. But on Wednesday, we have Nvidia's earnings, not to mention Salesforce and CrowdStrike. And then on Thursday, we have Best Buy and Dell. So just as a reminder, there's not much coming up for Monday and Tuesday, but for Wednesday, we have Nvidia's earnings. For Thursday, we have GDP numbers. And then on Friday, we have the PCE data report. I also want to remind you all that for September, when the month starts, we actually don't have trading on Monday, I believe, because of Labor Day. So that's going to lead to a holiday, at least for the markets. And I think that's going to be very important too. So, excuse me, Friday is going to be very important because of the fact that we have a 3-day weekend coming up and a lot of other things that are going up as well. That's going to be very important. So, as far as Tesla goes, I just wanted to talk about how things are looking, at least for now. Right now, we're seeing an attempt to push in the markets because of what Jerome Powell was saying, and I still think that there's momentum remaining, especially as we look at the 4-hour time frame. So the 4 hour is going to be very important. Make sure you guys are prepared for that because of how things are looking. And I think that there's a very good chance that Tesla will attempt to continue this trend, but we're going to be approaching some very tough resistance trend line. So when I go to the 1 hour time frame, you guys can see Tesla bounced off its supports at this 208 area. I predicted in my video yesterday that Tesla would try to rebound off Jerome Powell's speech, but there would be still this risk of rejection in the markets, which still remains as I speak. We haven't seen the rejection yet, but it could still happen later on. So for now on Tesla, I think that we may attempt to get very close to this trend line right here, this yellow trend line. Tesla could attempt to go a little bit higher into this 222 to 223 area where this trend line happens to be. So 222 to 223. If we hit this, we could see a rejection back down to our support where this trend line happens to be. So I suspect that's where Tesla may be heading towards for a temporary little push. If we hold above 220, that's going to likely happen. If we lose 218, however, there's going to be a risk of us dipping back down lower. So I'll be watching that just to be safe. For other factors out there, we also have SPY. SPY is also trying to form a nice cup so far. When you zoom out all the way, we do look a little bit more bullish. It looks like it's going to try to fight for that 563 to 565 zone. It is possible we try to get up there. However, guys, I'm not going to turn into a perma bull despite that. I think that we might go a little higher, but the market's still setting up for a very nice rejection off the bearish divergence that's continuing to develop. So if we do get a final high, we might try to fill the gap and get close to all-time highs. But the problem with SPY is this. Notice that when you look at the daily, for example, we're getting a lot of rejections. We're really struggling in this 560 area. So look at how we went up to 560, we came down, pushed back, came down, came back up and down. So we're really struggling. Every time we hit 563 to 565 on SPY historically, SPY is also rejected. So it's a very, very tough resistance. I wouldn't be surprised if we form kind of like a cup and handle. I have a feeling that we're going to be shuffling around 563 to 565. We make it close to that area next week. And then we're going to be looking for a rejection for the handles to form. And I think we could be coming down to at least this gap support near 550. So I anticipate there's going to be a pump and then a rejection. So I just want to call that out and be very, very honest. So that's what I'm seeing for SPY. Going into next week, we might push a little bit more. I'll go into more details about this on Sunday and even tomorrow, but for now, I'm just going to be very, very brief. So look for a little bit more upside than potential rejection. With Nvidia having earnings next week, I think we could push for that 130 to 132 area for a little bit more upside. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. If we break 132, we could try to fill some balance towards 135, but I anticipate there's going to be a little bit more upside before we see anything else. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin is also trying to push higher. We're going to be looking at this imbalance as our resistance around this 65,000 mark. And we have the support all the way down here around this 63,500 area. So we could push a little bit higher to this imbalance. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get, at least from here. For others out there like the QQQ, now I'm seeing that the QQQ has some weakness compared to SPY. Notice how we're not going all the way up to this gap floor. We're not getting it up to this resistance. Instead, the previous resistance in this 480 zone is what's stopping it. And we have this bearish engulfing candle that's still slowing things down. So I suspect the same thing as SPY, where we try to push a little bit higher, except we're not going to break the all-time high. We might just start dipping on the QQQ soon. I think we're going to eventually make our way down lower very, very soon. So yes, in the morning, okay, and going into next week, we could see an attempt to get back up towards that resistance around that 480 area, 482 to 485. We might push a little bit, and then we could be looking for a rejection from there. We'll see how things go, but I just want to let you guys know that I don't think the market will keep pumping forever. I think there could be a little bit more upside followed by that rejection. On Apple, we're looking at 227. If that breaks, we're going up to 228. And above that, we have 230 as our resistance levels. If 223 breaks, we have that gap to fill. I suspect we may push a little bit higher towards 228, if not a little bit higher. And then we could be looking for a rejection after that. So watch for that very carefully. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're looking more bullish, trying to push higher. We're looking at this 221 resistance. If that breaks, our next target is going to be all the way up here towards this 224 area. So we could go a little bit higher, but we'll be watching to see if we reject somewhere in this range. So I suspect that's going to likely happen. I think we look a little bullish for now. We might push a little bit higher for now. But like I said, we are still in a very, very tough area where the market is, even though it's pushing thanks to Jerome Powell being more dovish, I still think that there is going to be that risk of downside. Yes, we could go higher from here. I do anticipate we could get close to about 222 at least, but we might get a rejection of resistance. So you want to be very patient. For Coinbase, we're trying to push right now. We're doing a good job at trying to breaking out, excuse me. But I would say that the higher we go, the riskier this becomes, especially when you look at the 4-hour time frame. I think we might be trying to get close to our 200 EMA, this 216 area, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get at that previous support becoming resistance. It's going to be a tough resistance up there. So I'll be watching this range right here, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Will we reject here with the market, or will we continue higher? We'll just have to wait and see. But right here, this is where the range happens to be. We'll see what kind of reaction we get right up here. So I'll give it some time. I think we could push a little bit more on coin, and we'll see what the reaction is. Amazon concerns me, but we have kind of like a head and shoulders like structure. We're just range bound for now. If we lose 175, we'll look for 172. If we break past 178, look for a bounce. With this head and shoulders like structure, if we lose 175, I could be looking for a dip back down to this imbalance of 172. I'll be watching to see if the head and shoulders plays out or not, but watch and see how that ends up developing if 175 breaks. With the bearish divergence also developing right over here on the hourly time frame, there's also a risk of kind of retracing back down to 522. So we'll see how things go. We'll see if this ends up tipping back down lower. So be very, very mindful of that and be very careful. For other factors out there with the bearish divergence developing, we could be continuing to fall. And I think that there is a risk of us coming down to this 200 EMA. So Meta is range bound, of course, between 524 and 530, but there's a risk of it tipping lower. Looking at this double top, I do favor that a little bit more. For Microsoft, you want to break past 418 to turn back up. Otherwise, we're at risk of tipping towards 412. I favor that there's going to be a risk of us making lower lows and lower highs, and we could be tipping down lower. For Google, We're making lower highs over here. I think that there is a risk of us dipping down towards 166. And we have this resistance around 168. So I do favor 166 or lower coming, especially as Google's downtrending. So I'll be watching to see. I have a feeling it's just going to be range bound for now. Attempt a little rebound and then it may continue to dip. So just be mindful of that. There's a bit of a downtrend on Google. So that's it for my analysis. I want to make this one very short. It is a Friday night. So please take care, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Have fun for your Friday night or whatever. Please spend time with family or loved ones or do what's best. If you guys have work, don't worry about it, guys. Hopefully, you guys do get your breaks because I know a lot of people out there are working very hard during these hard times. I just want to say that I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people out there who are going through difficult times. I've been, hearing all this talk about inflation, but you have to remember that prices are not going down. Things will remain expensive for years to come, and it's going to be difficult. We have difficult years ahead of us, especially looking at interest rates and unemployment going up. But stay strong no matter what. Keep your heads up, and I just hope for the best for everyone out there. So please enjoy your weekends, guys. Take care. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow for another update, and then we'll see how things go from here. I'll give you guys another update on Tesla and SPY. Talk about something I'm seeing. I may even talk about Elon Musk because I haven't really, talked too much about him for the last week. So take care. I'll see you guys very soon, and peace out.